Hi, everybody. I haven't been live in so long. I didn't know I was doing Marie. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here. Hey, everyone.
Hi. It's been so long since we did this, but
I
it's a
know.
special evening. I know everybody knows why, no matter where you are.
Right. We did the last elections live, so I guess it's just
That's
kind
true.
of
We did.
etched
Yeah.
into us.
Yes. Damn, that was 4 years ago. Wow. I mean,
Right.
just the thought about how things have gone and all the different things that have happened and what we're looking at now. We don't want any sort of copyright infringement, so that's why I don't have like any of like the major things up now. But what we're gonna do, as stuff continues to be called in, we're going to just have one in the background, somebody else that is straight. We don't even know who these people are, so like, please forgive us. We don't know. We're not familiar with them. I just didn't
Right.
want any issue. So what they're watching as things come in, and if we see anything pertinent, we'll talk about it. But Maria, so good to have you back here.
Yes, it feels settling. Some people know, but not quite a lot that I've kind of been taking a back seat to uh reevaluate my direction.
Mhm.
I've progressed to Sag rising and Pisces rising. So, I mean Pisces sun. So two
Yeah.
major shifts in my astrological chart have led me on a new path that I'm discovering and getting familiar with.
Mm. Oh, that's discovery. I love it. So progressing your sun as well as your rising. Do you feel like a bit of a different person? How would you best describe that experience?
Yes, it is very different from being a Scorpio rising, which I was born a Scorpio rising, but I stayed progressed that way for quite some time. But I've had progressed to Aquarius since I was so late in Capricorn. And my life feels very, I don't want to, is somber the right word?
Slumber. Oh.
Progressing into the Sag Pisces, these are Jupiter ruled planets. So I've been on, or Jupiter ruled signs. So I've been on an exploration. And because of the Piscean nature of it, it's been a lot of solitude and isolation and reflection.
Yeah.
And going in the past, as well as a journey for knowledge and information. And that's quite a stark change from my previous astrological life, if you will, which was very fast, very quick. There
Mhm.
wasn't there was time to investigate, but because the fixed signs of Scorpio and Aquarius are also the two most transformative signs, there was so much to go through information wise as as a soul journey, if you will,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
didn't really allow too much time to sit back and think of those things. Because as soon as I was doing something, Aquarius and Scorpio go, brand new you. Oh, fuck. here, here goes something new. Now, how do you like this? As soon as I'd get settled, it's like another crashing. It's the whole tarot tower card over and over again while being a molting at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you. Damn, that's a lot.
Yeah. So now with all of that knowledge being the Sagittarius Piscean side of it, I'm finding myself swimming more through that, and exploring it and thinking about it and being more philosophical and coming into my own, which is kind of plays into the whole human design for my profile, which is that hermit, that 2-4. So I'm
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm experiencing a lot of the hermit with that. So I've given this election and the entire process for the political field a great deal of thought as we've
I
been
feel you.
going through this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Those thoughts probably began to years prior at this point, all the different things that we've seen and experienced. And
Mhm.
what made me really want to do this again with you was because, well, I talk about this a lot.
Right.
I've been kind of like depolarized for a while, and as soon
Mhm.
as you say that to some people, they get really angry with you. And I've just kind of learned, let people think what they want to regarding that. But if you ask
Yeah.
me directly, I criticize everything. I care about what's true. You know what I mean? I know that you do as well. And I was lamenting earlier that I can't believe I used to actually like want to be on the news, given I don't trust a lot of it. And
Right.
that's for so many different reasons. Things that we've seen over time. I was born in 1980s. There's a lot of decades to be having seen television and the talking heads on it, and even being concerned with elections as a little kid. That's interesting. I guess my little my little cat moon self was like, "What are these adults into?" Like, just
Right.
trying to figure different things out. But as I got older, I just realized how quickly politics divides people,
Mhm.
and it's even to the point where like it's hard to have a constructive conversation with anybody, because if you even remotely sound like you're not leaning with them or aligning with them, they assume, oh, bad, you bad, us on the
Right.
other side. And it's like half the time that's not even what it is. I'm asking questions to understand. Everybody can catch this criticism, so I appreciate
Right.
that you respect that.
And it makes sense for, well, when you do spend a lot of time reflecting and then observing and watching the behaviors of other people, and finding this polarization with politics and what people think you should be doing and things of that matter. I have to admit that prior to me taking this kind of backseat to be the observer, and I had to admit it to myself, I did very much want to not be isolated from communities or not
Mm,
shunned from the acceptance of others, which made me self censor on my own. And some might say that, why would you do that? But I find that a lot of people were self-censoring just because I spent all this time observing what people were thinking about. So like when you were looking at the elections now, there are a lot of people that may be surprised as to how this is turning out. But had they had taken the same route that I did to step back, observe, listen to
mhm.
what different people were saying, you wouldn't be as surprised as you are now. Because what I found was that in order to have that kind of community that was lost with the Saturn in Aquarius, we're getting the results of that now, where Saturn in Aquarius was about friendships and community, but it came through to reevaluate all of that. Instead, these communities are silent and they're
Mm.
quiet, and they're self-censoring whether they know or not, and are being very vocal only in communities that are accepting them, to where they would not be on other sides in different realms. So what I mean by that is that I took a backseat to just being the astrologer for a moment and participating on both sides of these communities.
I
So
gotcha.
especially with politics, like I have friend groups everywhere from Discord, to YouTube to Facebook. I've used different names in each one of them, but
Wow.
I wanted to engage personally with each side to hear what people were saying, and I found that they are so separate that it's sort of like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, which is crazy. This is to say that it's a pun to the elections right now, that the left hand did not know what the right hand was doing. But there were a
Yeah.
lot of people doing that. And I ended up finding a lot of middle ground people, a lot of independent people, a lot of people who were confused and just didn't know, and were undecided, or were in that realm where they also too were like, okay, it's becoming so extreme that now I don't know where I belong, and they were censoring themselves to try to find community. So a lot of them were, if you will, hiding amongst the extreme to keep some
Ah.
sense of community, but very silently trying to nitpick to find aligned minds, and then they would go off into their own groups. so so the whole
Wow.
time, this entire political sphere that I've been observing, was people were fishing the whole time, and nobody knew, or nobody appeared to know, that a lot of these groups were people trying to find someone who seemed not out of their mind for either side.
Mm. Listen, that's a very interesting journey that you had there to be able to look into that. I kind of feel like I wish I had done that. I'm just nosy. I'm a nosy person. I
Right.
like I like to see how people are operating, especially when it comes to things that are viewed at on a global scale. Like you don't even have to live in the U.S. to be paying attention. to any of this. And then, you know what's so funny? A lot of Americans online I've seen get mad at people from other countries having anything to say. And I'm always kind of like, we do walk around like we are the best, right? At everything, even though that's not really true. But, we have this kind of, I think Patrice O'Neill had a skit once talking about Americans are the sort of people that like go overseas and be like, "What language are you speaking? Speak English, foreigner." Like calling somebody foreign and where they live. It's just
Right.
really fascinating the attitude that we have, but we put it on like we're so great, and then when the world looks at us, people tell people that aren't from here, "Oh, shut up. This doesn't impact or affect you." And it's like, why? I've never understood why people do that. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and on a global scale, and this is the spreading out past that, the echo chambers or inside those communities that no one dare step out of. It does matter. We do matter to the world, and the world matters to us, which is very strange to even be so invested in presidential politics and not understand that ultimately the president's goal is really not to deal with the states. It's to make sure the states are good, but his main priority or her main priority would be foreign policy and making sure that the United States as a whole is getting along with other countries and dealing with other countries. So how we are as a country very much does affect others, and them having an input never bothered me. I would hope that they would, because they can see things on the outside that Americans who are so in the bubble can't see. And
Right.
I saw through this journey that I took to reach out to more people and connect with different people that they were seeing things that other people weren't seeing. And they were pointing out stuff because they're not invested in it and it doesn't affect them personally where they are.
Yeah.
They were able to very unbiasedly be like, well, that doesn't make sense. How come you guys don't see this?
Right.
And then you have
Right.
to kind of take a step back and be like, well, what do you mean? That it means they're all like, yeah, but you didn't consider any of these things. So no, I think it matters. We have opinions about other countries.
Yeah.
We have opinions about how Russia runs things and how China runs things, having no idea about their, a lot of their political sphere or even their personal community spheres. We don't know how individual cities or whatever they call counties
Yeah. Yeah.
behave or act, and we still have blanketed comments about how their country should be run. So, I mean, you give it out, it comes back, dish it back.
People are funny though. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you shut up," and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh." I don't know if it's something to attribute to the fact that like I'm just older now and look at things a lot differently, or if some of this technology had been around when I was younger, if I would behave like some of these people, I would hope I would have
Right.
grown a bit. But it's interesting. Oh, I thought there was an update. There wasn't. For those who are tuning in, we have this in the background. Just because we don't want copyright strike, I didn't want to put anything in here. I didn't want them to stop a stream or whatever the heck they be doing. And we're just waiting for the different results to come in. And Marie was just saying how she took a journey. She took a break from regular social media to kind of investigate how people were feeling, I guess, on either side of the aisle. Ideas that she was able to understand a lot better because of how you positioned yourself within these different parts. What was a standout thing for you?
Well, one thing that I noticed that was okay, so there's different groups, so I have to separate these into how I found or what each one was doing. So
Yeah.
I'm going to blanket statement for this particular reason, but just because going through them individually would be ridiculous. But so let's say that I was in a group that was very democratic, very progressive, very left-leaning. And what I noticed from being in those groups is if it was extreme, there was self-censoring. So there was you could not go into any of these groups without sticking to their talking points or the way that they saw the world. And I mean absolutely no room to go. And someone would say that happens on on the Republican side. And yes, on the extreme Republican side, it is the very same thing. Like there's absolutely no room to talk about anything in contrary. The
Yeah.
biggest group that I found were not the extremes, and meaning by the biggest as the most engagement, the most talking, the most getting along, finding or not getting along, but still finding like minds, groups or compromise, were those that were in the middle. Those that were moderate, though, and what I also realized too is that a lot of the moderate or independent people were right leaning, which is kind of crazy to think, because if you think you're in the middle, there'd be more left leaning, maybe, perhaps, and stuff. But like you said, a lot of people are getting older. Millennials
Yeah.
are the biggest demographic after boomers. And so it was a lot of my age category that were the moderates or in the middle. But because they're getting older, and this is what I ended up finding, is that not listening to what they were saying about what it is to live as an adult. And a lot of what the Democratic side was pushing in a lot of those groups, a lot of regular adult people were not facing on a regular basis. You know, I normally hear the same things, that rent is too high, groceries are too high, just anything, utilities is just too high, that they didn't want to deal anymore with trying to make things, how can I say this? Try to make things equal, because, you know, that's kind of like the whole progressive side. Everyone should be equal. Everyone should have a fair shot. Everyone should be, you know, accepted and things of that matter. And what I found from these adults is that they're like, all right, we want that and that's cool, but I need to eat, kind of thing. And that's where it started to go. Like it was, I would say that it was almost surprising, because at the same time they're like, yes, and it was almost disappointing for a lot of people. So it was disappointing in the fact they're like, yes, I want to so much focus on making sure that we're getting rid of, you know, racism and systemic racism and inequality. I really want to focus on that, but it is so hard to do that when I can't afford my rent. It is so hard to do that when I'm rationing out food. It is so hard to do that when I'm trying to take care of a family where they keep increasing the rent prices and things of that matter. And it was demoralizing to see things like, well, we're just going to keep accepting more people. We're just going to keep bringing more people in. And nobody seemed to hear that, especially in the media. So, because I spent a lot of time making sure I was getting a lot of information while listening to the media to contrast what I was getting. And I was not hearing enough of them paying attention to those cries that were just like, yes, they were saying all of that is great. And we do want that eventually. But shit is going to shit right now. And opening up to more people and dealing with other things that don't necessarily affect sustaining a family is not really helping me right now. So it was interesting to see that that's where it was going. So I'm not surprised that looking at the electoral map is looking extremely red right now. I'm also not surprised that despite it looking red, even in the blue states, if people were to look at New York or Virginia or Illinois, what you see is that it's blue overall because that's where the electoral went, but the counties have shifted red.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like the counties looks worse than the map. And I was saying like the map looks bad or good.
No, I get
That's
what
not
you
the
mean.
point, right? But the counties look worse than the map, and they shifted. So it's not that they've always been red. They were blue, and then they turned to red, which to me is a key indicator overall that people kind of want to put a halt on or slow down with the equality movement. Or the fairness movement, if you will, and deal more with the money movement. If that's how you were to put like a blanket over each one, it's like, I want to deal with making money so that I can survive, and then we'll get back to, you know, trying to make everyone happy and joyful.
That's an interesting thing to talk about, people's personal concerns. I mean, like I've noticed a lot of people will almost feel like they're coming off as if they are not a good person if they're concerned primarily with those sort of things, when the conversation leans more towards things that have to collectively do with everybody. You know what I mean?
Right.
I, I think it's kind of messed up that you can't have those two separate conversations without it being assumed what your position is on things that largely impact people just because you're concerned with self. I expect human beings to be concerned with preserving themselves. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So like I don't get why that's such a hard thing to get by, but I realize I don't know. What do you think it is that is needed to have people to be able to have these conversations more earnestly, easily, without so much offense? Because I just don't see it happening on a wide scale. I get excited when I can just, talk to somebody. It really doesn't matter where they stand on things. I'm open to listening without prejudice, so to speak.
Right. Well, as to kind of throw in some astrology in there because that's still what we
Okay.
do.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You know, Saturn in Pisces is a big indicator, but it doesn't just deal with Saturn being in Pisces. Saturn affects all the other signs that's aspecting it, whatever planet is in there. And so you can almost say that Saturn is throwing a energy towards Cancer and Scorpio. So Saturn is dealing with emotions, as it's playing in Pisces. It's dealing with sympathies specifically, but it's
Yeah.
also affecting the other emotional sides, which is the psychology of Scorpio and the emotional empathy of Cancer.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And the what we would need to do in order for people to have a fair conversation so that we find more middle ground is to kind of put a halt on how you personally feel about something without ignoring how someone else feels about something,
Okay.
and accept that. You see, I think that there's been a lot of people who are like, yeah, I hear what other people are saying, but they don't accept it. And that's a big issue because you can't move forward in good faith in a conversation if you cannot accept how someone feels or how they view things, and that's it. Like, period, full stop. That's how they
Yeah.
feel. I know what
Yeah.
I'm working with. This is how I feel. They at least heard me. Now we can talk, because it's no longer about trying to sway your emotions. It's more talking now. We're going to be logical about the situation in front of us. So if you constantly come into a situation where you're all like, well, I feel like it, okay, just to take a very extreme conversation, one of the talking points was abortions for this election. But if a person who's like, I need abortions, I want abortions for everybody, talking to somebody who's like, I don't want abortions, I don't agree with abortions, I don't want abortions for everybody, at full stop, it should be understand that that's how each other feels. And then you can start having conversations about, instead of, because that person doesn't want abortions, I now hate them. Or because that person wants abortions, I now despise them. I don't like
Right.
them, because those things come from an emotional root. You don't know them not to like them. You don't, well, if they like this, then they have to be horrible on this. That's also not true. So the fantasy about
Yeah.
how human behavior works needs to come to the fore. People don't work like that. All of us have bad qualities. Every
Yeah.
single fucking human has a
Yes.
bad quality about them. So if you heard about whatever bad quality it is about them, and knowing yourself, knowing that you have bad qualities, you know that that is not the overall arc story of who you are as a human. And
Thank
remembering
you.
that as a foundation will allow you to talk to other people when you realize that this one thing does not define them. And identity politics and going through that, and I said people were going to get tired of it, but the whole identifying somebody by just what they just their what they choose to identify as a color for themselves, whether
Yeah.
they say, like, I like cats, so now I identify my whole personality around being a cat lover. Forgetting the idea that I also love other animals, and people took a niche and then ran that shit into the ground, and that became their whole identity. But even for them, it's a lie. It's not your whole identity. You are not that one thing. I say that I'm an astrologer, but that's not all who I am. I am
Right.
a multitude of things, and I feel a multitude of things, and differently, and I change and I switch. And we've forgotten humanity from our own selves, which is why the reflection is we treat other people with that same forgetfulness for humanity. We've forgotten it ourselves. We forgot that we're human and we have a multifaceted layer of ourselves. So if you go around the world with that, it's sort of like not loving yourself. So if you meet someone else, you're not going to love them either, or you're not going to love them appropriately, or your projection for the lack of love you have for yourself is going to show on them. So what I see with a lot of people is they've forgotten their own humanity. They forgot that they're multicolored and multifaceted and there's multi-layers to themselves. So then when they meet other people, they are projecting that lack of understanding for their own humanity. Thus, this is why we have these clashes. You forget you're talking to other humans. And this was the other point when we were having that discussion as to why I'm starting to get to that realm. Like, I really don't care how others want to either demean me or shun me or push me aside for either my political views, my religious views, my social views, whatever the case may be. One, on my end, I understand that that's very human of you to do that. So it does not matter to me. And that's part of what I've been working on or searching in my own journey. It's like, it does not matter that you demean me or you don't like me for my views, because I am now at a point where I truly like me in my humanity and as being human. So I'm not in a position where I feel like, you're going to sway me from being afraid anymore to speak out or say how I feel or what it is that I want to do.
Right.
Because in the same way that I give others the right to even come at me in that manner, I have the right to respond, which means I get to be just as human. And it doesn't bother me because I recognize that we're engaging in a human activity, where this is a human game.
Yes.
So, other people, though, are very, very much affected by this. Where with the Saturn in Pisces, if this goes the way that I assume that it's going to go, we're going to see a lot of people who identified themselves using that identity for their politics and believing within themselves that this is all that they were and who they were, crashing down. All dreams, all ideals coming, smacking them in the face. Because they forgot to just be human in this game.
Right.
Well,
the human part is so important. We talk about that all the time. It's like the same attitude that I come across when people say, let's say you curse or you just say something, I don't know, ratchet, that you're not spiritual. It's like, there's so many different layers to human beings. I really dislike it when people just go all, I hate to say black and white because that's what it comes down to, but it is really black or white thinking. It's not accounting for nuances and little personality quirks or anything. Like even a person's chart has so much in it.
Right.
Like, even though, like, I know you specifically will look at a chart and you'll see things, another astrologer could look at a chart and see other things, but comprehensively, there's so many layers to it that it's very, very complicated, despite the fact that you can read it very well. So I think people forget there's a dance between when to keep things simple and then when to, I guess, open up a little bit more to the possibility that things are and people are complicated.
Right. Yeah. I see that Crystal said, hey, y'all, so how are y'all enjoying the end of the world? And
the last season of
right.
I'm sorry.
I'm laughing. It's funny. But also on a serious note, no, I don't think that it's the end of the world. None of this affects me emotionally in that way. It wouldn't have to me, it does not matter whether Kamala Harris wins or Donald Trump. Like at the end of it all, when it's all finished, I don't, not that saying that like I don't care, right?
No,
because
I
there are
understand.
things that I care about and I have my preferences. But whoever wins, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to sleep at night. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to cook my children breakfast or have them make breakfast. I'm going to work on my studies. I'm going to be online watching whoever is having a meltdown about the results. And I'm going to keep going on. That's all I can do. I can't say, oh my God, I didn't get the results that I wanted, so now I'm just going to lay in bed and do nothing or cry. That doesn't help me at all. and it
I
certainly
hope
doesn't help
not.
the people who love and depend on me. So while I'm watching this, and like I said, the reason why I'm not so entirely surprised that so far it looks like this is still too early to call. I don't know what Georgia and Pennsylvania are waiting for. Like, they could
Oh,
just
my
go
state.
ahead, but yeah, they can kind of just go ahead right now. Georgia is 93 report. They're at 93%, and it hasn't flip flopped to blue at all. It's still 50% 0.8 for Trump and 48.5 for Kamala. So
Okay.
probably keeping the show going to keep everyone on the edge of their seats and stuff. But
Oh God, so
I'm
many years of that too. Like,
yeah,
just
I'm
you're
not
affected
surprised.
differently. Me neither.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. All I see here is a whole bunch of people who were vastly ignored because we couldn't have conversations. When I was watching the Kamala campaign and the rallies and paying attention to those, I mean, she was pretty much talking to who she knew was already going to vote for her. It was a complete disregard for the rest of the people. And I see it now. Like, I'm looking at threads, I'm paying attention to X, I'm seeing what people are saying. And it's the same thing. Like, oh my God, half of Americans are dumb. Oh my God, these idiots, how could they call for the. Well, there goes your lack of humanity. There goes your forgetting that they probably feel the same way about you. And because you guys can't come to an understanding that each side feels the same way, you're never going to understand why things like this happen, so
It's such an uncomfortable conversation to have with people sometimes. Like, I understand each of our individual ideals and different things that we want may be different, um, and there's beauty in that. But online has just made it. I can't even remember what it was like to deal with elections without there being social media and an internet. And I was born in damn 1980, so
right.
but I guess for the most part, as a kid, maybe not so much. But just thinking about, you literally had to stay like glued to your television. There
Yeah.
was nobody tweeting about this or having a live stream. Like, there was none of that. And I sometimes wonder, how much did I not notice before? Because you couldn't, like you said, go back over a thread or see something that somebody had said. Plus, I don't really trust any media, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't say that from the standpoint to me that there's no truth out there. What I mean is, I take pause with everything. Everything gives me a
Right.
bit of pause. We're not all going to have the time to be able to look deep into issues necessarily to see if something purported on social media or online is true. But for the things that are really important to you, it really does help to get kind of like a comprehensive view. And I
Mm-hmm.
learned part of that happened because I became depolarized. I don't
Right.
have knee jerk reactions to anything that anyone could say. Like, I don't know what exactly to call it. Maybe studying astrology has helped, because you told me a long time ago, the longer you're in this practice, the easier it becomes to detach and just be like,
Mm.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really do.
You become a little bit apathetic because you're just like,
Yeah.
everything's meant to be.
I'm like, oh my God, she was right. But I guess the acceptance, maybe that's what has been helpful in, keeping me calm and not like, I don't need my blood pressure to go up, girl.
Yeah.
I'm in perimenopause. It has already climbed, and I'm hot for no reason. I don't need to be hot for other reasons. You feel me? Like, no.
Yeah. No. So I can't wait to see what and this is the astrologer in me speaking. I'm all like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I so want to see these planets play out. Go ahead and go ahead and call who the next president is so I can jump online and see what the online discourse is, while I pull out my popcorn.
Yeah.
And with the older you get too, and this is for anyone who eventually comes across this in their younger, Gen Z or whatever the case may be, or younger millennial and stuff, like, they have to remember how many elections we've gone through already. Like, this
Yeah.
this is not new. It's not. It seems like it. Every year they say the same thing. Every year it's the end days. Every year, what is that fucking computer that takes over the world and shit, and Terminator and stuff.
Yeah, we're
You know,
closer to Skynet happening, being
Skynet.
successful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I kind of like that Saturn and Pisces there. It's a lesson in learning just how not to be afraid, not to be fearful of your future. And things like this make it very apparent that we still have some work to do, because people are still scared, and they're scared for things that have not happened to them or yet. They're like, oh, well, it could be. You know what that is? When you go talk to your therapist and you say, well, this could happen and this could happen. You know what they end up doing? Prescribing you anxiety medication.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you're fearful for a future that you don't know is going to turn out the way that you fear it happening, and thus you kind of lock yourself in your own isolation box there by fearing things that haven't happened, and forgetting to live in your present. And like I said, every 4 years there's always some doomsday prediction that if this person wins or this person wins, something is going to happen. I kind of hate it, because I'm just like, this is PTSD at this point.
Yeah.
Like, how many times can you keep saying this would be the worst thing ever? Again? You see what I mean? Like, no.
Yeah. And then people are at different levels and stuff. Like, I felt good. Like, I was talking to my kids about voting, and, this was my son's first time. So I'm like, oh, like, and I don't want to take anything away from anybody, especially in your first part of a very adult, if you think about it, process, like something that you're called on to do as a duty, as a citizen, where you go, oh, okay, I did that. And I did not want to be that guy that was like, I'm so I'm so proud of you. But like, yeah, I think this is all bullshit. And that, like, is that I couldn't bring myself to say that. But
right.
what I do realize is, the more we see some of the same stuff every year, those who are probably bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to this, over time you'll see your own patterns, because I've been seeing them since forever. I don't know what your political journey started as, or like where it kind of like morphed a bit, but Maria, I can tell you, like, I used to be so political. I used to be so, like, oh my God, annoyingly so. Even in like high school, like, I was so committed. And the thing about it is, my commitment isn't what's disgusting or that I cringe at now. It's that, like, as you become a part of the actual process, get out there. I couldn't vote until the election of 2000. I was just telling my daughter what that was like. She was a few days old. I took her to the polls with me and stayed up all night, basically, watching stuff come in, going to bed, and the projected winner being Al Gore at that time, and then being like, psych.
Right. Yeah,
I'm
I remember that.
How does this happen? And then, like, oh my God, what happened? Didn't the election of 2020 ring reminiscent of something astrologically that happened during the election of 2000? I can't automatically recall it, but I remember we discussed that. Right. We did an electric stream last, but that jaded me. That jaded the hell out of me. I ain't even gonna lie. And after that, it was just a slow unraveling of me having faith, I guess, in the system.
Yeah, no, I remember that Al Gore thing, and it didn't hit me though. You were older than me at the time, but I wasn't able to vote just yet. I wasn't able to vote until the Bush elections.
Gotcha.
Or was that the one? That was 2004. Who was he running against?
No, that was Bush in 2000, and
it was Bush and Kerry. It was Bush and Kerry in 2004.
Yeah, in 2004. Yeah. Okay.
Which at that point, I was all like, Kerry's not winning. That was ridiculous. Nobody even wanted him to. That one's kind of reminiscent about how Kamala has been virtually unpopular for most of her career in the White House. Kerry was the same way. He was very unpopular, and not even Democrats wanted to vote for Kerry. Kerry.
That was an interesting time frame. And now that I think about, oh my God, I just had a baby, election of 2000. Oh, it was 2003 when I had my son, but that's when we went to war. I also remember like Lacey Peterson was missing, and me as a
Yes.
pregnant woman, like I was freaking terrified, like out of nowhere. But just thinking about, we didn't have social media at those times.
No.
Looking at some of the events that were running concurrent to some of those elections too, really do tell you what was on people's radar. Like at those times. That I don't know. It's a little bit different now.
Yeah, and I will say that being different and very much the same, because even though we have social media, one of the other things that I realized about people that are chronically on social media, especially TikTok or X or whatever the case, that are just chronically online in that manner, does not translate to real life. And
That's true.
There was an incident where there was a TikToker who self-proclaimed social justice warrior, right? For the, what was it, LGBTQ plus community. And online, they're very, very popular. On TikTok, millions of followers. They do great. Everything that they say is Jesus walking on water for their followers, right? Well, they ended up having to come online because they were crying, because they took that same attitude that they had online and went out into the real world, and the real world wasn't having it. There was an incident where they wanted to, and we're talking like today now, so
Okay.
not 2020 or 2019, but they went to a hotel room and was very upset that none of the hotel people were wearing N95 masks, and still said that they were putting their health at risk, or whatever the case is, for
Ooh.
that word that I won't say because people still get demonetized for it, which is crazy.
Yeah, yeah, we're not gonna say that word.
Right, but they were very upset, and so they went to all the hotel workers and everyone and basically berated them for not doing that, and demanded that they do, because online they can do that. They make the demand, the screaming and the screen and pointing the finger, and they demanded that these hotel workers and the management do what they make their followers do. And the hotel said, you have an hour to get your stuff and find someplace else to go. And they had no other place to go. I guess they're in a homeless arc in their story. And that's what that's one of the things that I end up realizing about how like online plays. Online, it looks like one thing. But then when you
Right.
go out into the real world and you're dealing with other people, because you're not dealing with your base online, you're dealing with everyone. When you step outside your door, it does not translate. So I see that there are people like on Threads that are just like, oh my God, I just don't see how this is happening. Why is everything so red like that? And I'm just like, because that's people who are not online.
Or online sometimes, not chronically.
Right. They're
No, I
not
get
chronically online. So not, and also with what you added, the fact of not trusting the media and the media going downhill, because I paid attention to them during this whole election campaign, and and just to clarify, I'm talking about the media. So then someone could say, oh, well, Trump lies too, and so does Kamala. Yes, they all lie.
Everybody
but,
lying.
but we see the media more. There are way more channels, and they are on 24/7 all the time, social media or TV, and they were clearly butchering journalism like nobody's business. I mean, like, it was blatant butchering of integrity right before my eyes.
I was just talking about that. Yes.
Yeah, like, and it was insultingly so for both sides. It was insultingly so. So it doesn't even matter. Democrat, Republican, moderate, independent. I don't see how others can see it, but I also understand why. But it was like a blatant disrespect for trying to give information to people. So instead of it being disinformation, it was half-ass information. And this is still Saturn and Pisces. This is still organizational deceit. Because because you're not outright lying and you're just telling part of the story, it's still deceitful. You can't say that you have integrity and that you're telling the truth if you're only going to say a fraction of the story and be like, yeah, but the fraction of the story I said was true. Yes, in a sense, but without the rest of the nuance and without the rest of the context and without the rest of the story, it is now just a truthful, deceitful, with now I forgot the word I was going to say, but it's just a truthful, deceitful giving of information to people. Right. You know, you're purposely putting them in a sphere that doesn't allow them to look at the full scope of things. And in that case, this is what we call, like I said, the Saturn in Pisces still directly affects Cancer and Scorpio. It is a direct manipulation of emotions. Scorpio and Cancer, that Saturn is shooting energy as a trine to both those signs. So being deceitful in any way is manipulating. And there was a lot of that in the media, more so than I had seen in the past, to be honest. Like, we were already on a trail, like, the media's not so great, but we were still kind of listening. Yeah. But this year, these past few years, oh my God.
Andrea just said, Drea Payne, context matters. It does. There's so many things mentioned without any context. So much so that I keep looking stuff up. I don't have enough hours in a day to be fact checking everything and looking and seeing pieces that are pulled, and it's insane. But other people just take it and run with it, and I'm like, it's very upsetting.
Well, some people don't know they're being manipulated.
That's true.
This is also the whole Piscean factor as well. There's a lot of people who still have trust and still have faith, that because they're looking at it like, well, why would they want to lie to me? I don't see how they gain. There's no understanding of what they gain or what they lose, because they're not getting the full scope of things to understand what's at risk or what's not at risk when it comes to manipulating someone. Like I just said at the beginning, which is why I took this step back, is that I realized within myself how desperately I wanted to be a part of community so much that I was self-censoring. I am a human being saying that. As a human, I am saying I want connections, and I would censor myself so that I can have them. I am not alone in that. I'm probably alone in being the few that will admit it. But I'm not alone in that feeling. So there's an underlying to understand that people have singular motivations that they are not sharing with others, because the natural inclination for humans is to connect. And in order to connect, some people will deprivate so that they can get along with someone else. So when you're looking at the media or when you're looking at other people, there has to be something in the mind, not so that you get to the point of paranoia. Everyone's got a motive. Yes, everyone does. Does not always mean that it's malicious, but understand that everyone has a motive. The person talking to you, I have my motives as I'm sitting here saying this as to what I want to convey to others, or how I want to be perceived, or the type of community that I want. I'm projecting that out into the world so that I can get what I want. And everyone is also trying to get what they want. And so they're like, I don't understand why someone would lie. I don't understand why the media wouldn't tell the whole story. I don't understand. Each one of them has their own particular motivations. And then if they join a group based off of that connection that they so desperately want to hold on to, you have that then group's motivation. And then on top of that group is another layer as to what other groups also align with that, and how does a conglomerate of groups have a motivation. So, if there's has to be some kind of understanding that it's not to mean that it's always malicious, but to understand, again, and this is, I've said this in past astrological talks that we've had, is that the second house of any house is the result of, right? So what we are actually witnessing is, even though we're getting the energies of Saturn and Pisces, we are getting the results of what Saturn and Aquarius did. And this had to do with the connections and humanity and groups and social issues and things that matter, humanitarianism and any other form of people gathering together. The Saturn and Pisces. Right. And what I said earlier about going into these different groups and finding out really how people felt, the secret from dealing with Saturn in Aquarius is the Saturn in Pisces. Now people are just, they're hiding their motivations for who they're trying to connect with. And they're finding themselves alone and lonely. And that's the Saturn in Pisces, the solitude, the isolation. And so you'll have people who will do whatever to make sure that they're holding on to some semblance of connecting to another human. And thus now we have different motives as to why people would be deceitful. I've lost all my friends and family, Saturn in Aquarius. I've lost all my connections, Saturn in Aquarius. I am now alone. I will now, Pisces, be deceitful about my aim to connect with someone else.
Tell it. Because there's so much, and hold on. So Saturn's going to go direct on the 15th. But I've just been watching some of these patterns. I love how you tied that into Saturn in Aquarius because, what a time that was for so many reasons. But you made a lot of good points before that I'm going to bring up now, too, when you were talking about value systems being something that would be a make it or break it type of thing in people's social circles,
right.
When we were dealing with Saturn in Aquarius, because the ruler of Aquarius is in the sign of values, Taurus. So I was like, that is played out just so plainly and clearly, especially like online. I'm not trying to say there weren't always little tits and tiffs, excuse me. I'm talking about little tits. Jesus Christ. Little tiffs that would be had between, like, let's say your family or like people you work with or whatever about politics. That's always going on. But it's been fascinating since we've all were forced, inside, away from actual human contact. A lot of things have shifted that have not shifted back since we can't say the word of that time frame, but
right.
Since 2020. And I mean, that was only 4 years ago, but it seems like it's been this way for a little bit longer. Right. But there was a test of what people align with as far as their values. And your values got tested in a way that made people uncomfortable. You were talking about Uranus meaning suddenly and even repulsive. It can have the energy of, because it's just strange. Like, that strange feeling of realizing, I don't agree with this person, or we're not as aligned as I thought we were at a certain time frame. And it was a little jarring, but it got us right to where we are. Like you said, people are like, I just won't say that out loud. They see what happens to you. Or for the sake of having community, I'll just shut up. Whatever the case may be, it's really kind of sad. But again, we can see the astrology and the astrologer in me gets happy. I know the astrologer in you does too, but it's like, damn, we're back to the apathy.
And there's also the sense of Saturn in Pisces being hopelessness. Of course, it also deals with like delusions and fantasies and things of that matter. So we've kind of entered into a realm because of that need for connection that people are creating fantasies around them. And no one seems to think that it's important. We don't think that it's important because some people can be like, oh, well, I'm fine by myself. I don't really need anybody, but statistically proven and psychologically proven, you do. We're wired that way. We weren't one of the species that God created that said that, hey, as soon as you lay some eggs, you could just walk away and go about your
Yeah, that wouldn't have gone very well. But you're right.
Yeah. No, we need to connect, and I would say that forever, whoever feels very attached to the election that we're going through, and they are sorely disappointed and just sad. I would recommend, if I can give a recommendation, is that the one thing that you don't want to do is fall in the traps of then resenting humans for their choices and their values and their ideals. It'll just lead you further into isolation, and it'll lead you further into your own solitude. Because in that part and this is a hard road to get to. Like we said, doing the astrological journey, and for so many years, you come to understand this almost, you're apathetic, but then you're all like, oh, we're all connected. And it seems so very love and light, but it's not. No. You don't have to like it, but you do understand it. And it's the lack of not wanting to reject humans or other humans. for their choices and their values. There's a difference and of outright rejecting humanity and just not liking someone. One is an extreme. One of them is a preference, you know, because you don't have to not like them. You don't. You're choosing to. Based off of your values, you are choosing not to like certain individuals. You know, you're like, well, some individuals just don't need to be liked. Yeah, for you. But I guarantee that, and this is just an understanding of how the way the world works, that person that you hate so much has family and has friends and has a community of their own. So if you go into this whole now, because like I said, I'm watching the activity of how people are responding to the way that the election is going, and now they're just, you know, all these humans are stupid is what I hear. It's not, they're being more specific. The people in Texas, I can't believe you. Oh my God, Ohio, what is wrong with you? You know, all these people are done. That's a lot of energy to put out there to hate and reject humans, because it's not one person, it's millions of them. And that's a millions of people that on a cosmic scale are very much connected to you, whether you want to believe so or not, they are. Right. Yeah. They're very much connected to you. So, you having feelings of outright rejection based off of your emotional attachment to what's happening that's going on is just further adding more fuel to your Saturn and Pisces. I already saw some people who were sitting there like, oh my God, it looks like he's going to win. I'm going to be scared to go to my local store now. Why? You weren't scared 24 hours ago, and nothing between 24 hours was going to change the way that these people were already planning on voting. Do you see what I mean? So you're going to put yourself into an isolation box if you don't start understanding that you are connected to everyone, and everyone has all their values are of value, even if you decide preferentially that they are not. Right.
Oh my gosh. I love this. Andrea Payne also said this information is making so many things make so much more sense to me. I'm glad to hear it. Yes. Me and Marie have these kinds of talks often. She is an amazing astrologer and a very good friend of mine. And I oftentimes I don't know, I feel like she explains things in such a way that it just really like, points you right in the face, like, yeah, damn. So I'm glad that, you know, I'm able to look.
And likewise, shine that light on you too, ma'am, because I can't have intelligent conversations without intelligence being there. So you have the same fucking light, okay?
Thank you. No, I appreciate it, because it's so scary, because I can tell within a matter of minutes sometimes, despite my best attempts or intentions, that like I just can't have certain conversations with you. They're going to take it the wrong way. And it's like, I am in no way against you. It goes back to this whole thing that you'll always hear me say. I love human beings. I don't like everybody though. Right? I love humanity. I respect your humanity. I'm going to go out of my way to help a fellow human being if it doesn't put me in imminent risk usually. But I don't like some people, and that's okay. Everybody isn't supposed to like everybody.
Right.
Which is something that astrology, and especially astrology, taught me that it's okay. Like, you can see literal interactions with people like, oh yeah, no wonder you don't bang with that energy. It's all right.
Right. Yeah, you know, and it's the conflation of these things, you know, like for when we said earlier about using the example of the abortion talking point, that if someone isn't for it or is for it, that each one will instantly reject the other based off of that value system. And it's fine that you don't have to like them. But the thing is that they're putting both of them together. You don't like that they made that decision. That does not also equate to you don't like them.
Right.
And it doesn't, because I have friends and family members that are of opposing views, since we're on the political thing politically, and we still very much love each other. You see how you're able to separate that. You're all like, yeah, I don't agree with you on that, and that's fine, but I hope that you're here this weekend for family dinner. And instead, I am seeing, and this is the rejection of humanity, when you see people who are just like, I just found out my dad is voting for Trump. I can never go over there again. My whole life is ruined. My family's falling apart. Why'd you do that? You cannot like something. What did that have to do with them as a human? So you mean, are there any other points that say overall as a human they are unlikable, or they're someone that you can't get along with, or is it just this one thing that you just don't agree with? You know,
I can see if it's like other things that your dad is doing, and you're like, oh
right.
shit, like you know what I mean? That would align with the absolute worst things that could be attributed to somebody that would support Trump. Even though people find this interesting, I'm not judging anybody on that. Y'all perspectives are y'all perspectives. I'm gonna repeat again. I'm just trying to navigate the waters that are a result of whatever happens. We're dealing with Saturn and Pisces things now, after dealing with Saturn and Aquarius things, and I'm seeing it play out so heavy. Like, I'm not scared. I'm actually excited.
Yeah,
to kind of
me
see
too.
what transpires between now and January after things, after it's called.
Right.
Just because, we're going to keep looking at the charts and the.
yeah, we're gonna just keep moving on. No, I'm excited. Like I said, my astrological self wants to see the human reaction to what the charts indicate is supposed to happen or may happen. So yeah, I have a completely different feeling for this, and this doesn't mean that I lack empathy for anyone else that may be feeling like this is very serious for them.
Right.
By all means, if it's serious to you, it should be very serious to you, and I respect that. I don't agree, but I'm not all of a sudden now going to hate you because, you've made this your whole world. That's your world. So that's your journey and your life to live. And this is also going back to what we were talking about not self-censoring or not being afraid. And what I'm discovering within myself on this and taking a back seat is that since I understand that about everyone else, I don't need the validation back. I don't need you to understand my humanity because
right.
I've taken the realm of understanding your humanity. So I walk through a little bit less fearful than I did before, because wherever I end up and whatever happens to me and whatever I'm supposed to be doing was supposed to happen. That's just the end of it. And whatever happens to them is supposed to happen to them. And it doesn't mean I care any less about what's important to me. And it doesn't mean that I don't respect what's important to you. But I'm not going to then go out and have this emotional surge to where now I'm rejecting all that is and was because something didn't go my way.
Say that. I love it. No, we have to be better regulated. I can recall another conversation I had with you when we were talking about how people were responding to someone basically finding out their wife was cheating and then like unaliving someone over it, and just the comments and the types of things that were being spoken about. And me and you were like, people this easily are just on a unaliving rampage, and it's great, and everybody's like, yeah, I would do that too. And it's like, do we live in the real world? Y'all just go around when your feelings are hurt and take people off the planet? That's what y'all do? Like, it just seemed a little bit strange to see some things that would be considered I guess a little bit heinous depending on how you're looking at them, said like, oh no, that's normal. So if you could think about that in cases of where we're just talking about, oh, a news story that happened, how do you feel about it, versus something that the media tells you, this is so important. And that's not to say that it's not, because it is. But the same sort of fear that can be drummed up in people to act and respond in a certain way that isn't even necessary most times. It reminds me of the same thing as what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's also putting two things together that don't necessarily need to be together. And I hate that I have to keep saying this, but it doesn't mean for every situation, which seems to also go over people's heads. You can come up with a solution. It doesn't mean that it goes for every situation.
Right.
There goes that nuance and context, but it's putting two things together that don't need to be together. You cannot like cheating. You don't have to add death penalty to it. These are two separate things. You cannot like that Trump was elected. You don't need to then add that half the world is fucking retarded and they need to be blown off the map. You don't need
Yeah.
to you don't need to have that attitude with it. It's not a necessity to the extreme emotion that you feel also outweighing your logic. There has to be a balance there. You can sit there and be like, do I like this? What is the appropriate response to this? You know, they ask this question in interrogations for crime shows a lot when they catch the person, or, you know, they know that this person is guilty. And what they'll ask is they'll say, well, what do you think your punishment should be? Because typically an innocent person would say, if I did this, I deserve the death penalty. You know what I'm saying? If this is, you're saying that it was me and it's not, then anybody who's done something like this deserves the death penalty. And then you'll have the person who's not innocent, who goes, well, maybe a couple of years behind bars. You know, it's an inappropriate attachment as to what goes with the actual thing. So having to have that reflection that makes you go, what is the appropriate response for these things, takes you going like, okay, this is just someone's opinion. I don't think they need to die because of it.
Right.
So let me not conflate those two things and just express it as, and again, this is the example to what you were talking about earlier about everything being polarized or being too extreme. You don't have to be extreme about everything. Some of these harsh punishments that you are attributing to people's values, to people's choices, to people's way of life are unfair and undeserving.
Right.
If we don't get to a point where they start to realize how unfair and undeserving this is, then we're going to get people who, like you said in that article, that all she did was cheat and the man unalived her, and that was a justified punishment for that in everyone's eyes.
They're like, I do the same thing. I don't blame him. And you're just like, really? Okay. I understand. Yeah. We understand human nature in the heat of a moment, but like it just seemed a little weird that people were responding to a thing that way. And it looks like nothing has moved in a minute over here. Yeah, I saw it move from 208 to 210, but like my
we have 93. Oh, well, let me refresh this so that I can see where we're at right now. So it looks like we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 states left that need to call. At 93 reporting, Donald Trump is 50.8%, while Kamala is 48.5%. Okay. Pennsylvania has Donald Trump leading at 50.9% with 48.1% for Kamala. Okay. Michigan and Wisconsin are also both leading for Trump. Minnesota looks like it flipped because it was red for a moment. Mm-hmm. Not that it flipped in terms of what it was last time. Right. Yeah, but Kamala is leading at 50% and Trump's at 47%. If they're doing this based off of the way that the votes are coming in, then I pretty much see that Arizona's too close to call. Pennsylvania will probably call it, and Georgia's very close to call.
Okay.
What else is called close? Yeah, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia are very close. Pennsylvania, Trump is like, has 3 million votes to her 2 million. So, I don't know. Maybe that will be called soon.
If I just went by the signs that I've seen, now let me be clear. I'm a Philadelphian. I'm originally from Philadelphia. No offense to the rest of the beautiful state of Pennsylvania, but like we tend to think we're our own like thing, like own state. Even you understand, right? And then there's Pittsburgh, and then there's the rest of Pennsylvania. And I'm in North Central Pennsylvania. If I went by what I saw posted where I am, it would be all Trump. That's what I would see. But if I was closer to the city, like when I went back home, not the same story.
Yeah.
I guess people would say I'm in Pennsylvania. Yeah, I guess. I guess that's why, if you want to have that stereotype. But what I'm saying is, I can't imagine how many people's singular scope has become what you see online and with social media and not having that interaction, because that isolation that you're talking about with Saturn and Pisces, I feel like for a lot of people that doesn't mean they're not online, they just not outside.
Right. Yeah. Not what do they say? Not touching
Touching
grass.
grass. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's very different. And even if they are online, they're not. They're staying isolated in their own social groups, in their
Right,
own
right.
echo chambers. They're not risking oh my God, I can't believe you listened to them, or you're over there with them and you're actually reading that. Oh my God, the self-censoring, that so much so that it isolates you from the information you need.
Mhm.
Because even if we're looking at what Saturn in Pisces is doing, it's also a square by sign to Jupiter in Gemini. So that Saturn in Pisces is a square to information. So if you're
Yes.
isolated in your own group, you're going to have a hard time getting all the information you need. So even online, it's also, I don't know, what do you, not touching circuits, since we say not touching grass rods, not touching enough circuits.
Do a little bit. I don't know. I feel bad for anybody that is having an experience that feels like just a perpetual gloomy Groundhog Day. But like, I think when you are outside, and when I say outside, I don't mean people. Well, there could be some people hold up. I don't be leaving the house much unless I have something to
Mm-hmm.
do because I work from home primarily. But even if people are outside, maybe you're not interacting outside of what you have to do, because
Right.
that happens a lot with people too, and you're not doing anything different or new, or you know putting yourself in the path to be around different people. And I get it, because like I said, I love humanity, but I don't like a lot of people, and that's okay.
Right.
So the other thing about this that's fascinating to me is you said like responses are just like coming into how red everything is right now from what you can see. Like, what are you
Mm-hmm.
scrolling on? Like, what's your thing of choice?
Um, I'm looking at both X and Threads because
Okay.
they're
Okay.
the short form, come
Gotcha.
in as they think it type of platforms. I'm not seeing much on my Facebook,
Mm.
which is surprising. I try to switch my feeds to see if anybody was talking about it, and maybe I'm just not in the right groups for it. But
Mm.
I'm not seeing a lot of it here. So I'm going to the short thought people. Not saying they're short thinkers. I'm saying like you usually use those platforms for short thoughts, as they come in is what those
That's
platforms
funny.
primarily do.
I think what
So
you meant like 140 characters or less typically. Like,
yeah,
okay,
your
I
500
gotcha.
character or less groups, which is very easy to how you're feeling. You're gonna hurry up and get on X and Threads and post it out, because it's kind of how it's designed for you to do versus Facebook or Instagram. How many pictures can you put up talking about
Right.
the
I
election?
just You just made me understand something about myself then. Maybe that's why those are platforms that are harder for me to be on. I talk too much. If I'm gonna write something out, I just want to be able to post it all in one long fail swoop.
Right.
It's the short stuff that I think I'm like, I don't know if this is personal or maybe slightly generational. I feel like there are parts of me that are rejecting my attention span getting shorter, and that is happening in society as a whole to everybody. Like, it's like I'm trying to hold on to my attention span for dear fucking life. It's interesting though, just feeling me like losing a bit of a grip. Stuff is just shorter. Communication is shorter. I mean,
Yeah.
welcome to the
Yeah.
future.
Oh, and I just saw. I don't know if I haven't been able to press play because I have we're listening on live. I don't know if it's gonna pop up there, but somebody's posted on X saying that they're playing Diddy's music at one of the Harris HQ.
Wait, what? What is happening?
Yeah. Let me see.
What is happening? I'm about to say, if you do want to put anything up on the screen, you can just tell me. I don't care. We're just like talking while this is sitting here. But hold on. Let's see
Yeah,
what's
because
going
they're
on.
stalling the key states. Like no one's calling the key states. All that's I mean, the only non-key state that's left is Minnesota, and that's it. Nope, and Maine,
Mm.
and then Alaska because we frequently forget them, but we won't even see anything from them till tomorrow. But yeah, the only states that are supposedly the determinants for who's going to be president haven't been called. They're the ones just hanging in the balance. And so far, out of all the key ones, how many keys do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is it 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah,
Okay.
6. 5 out
Well,
of the 6 are leaning red.
well, I just want everybody not to like panic if
Yeah.
what happens that you don't want to happen happens. Marie has already said a lot in favor of just being able to really get a hold of yourself enough to realize like you'll still be here. You
Yeah.
still got to
Yeah.
move forward. We got through this how many times now?
Oh yeah, yeah, and
With
under
the-
much stricter regulations. People don't understand too. Like I said, this isn't our first election, and dealing with all the president elections and things that matter. A lot of the rights that we have today, we also didn't have like 10, 15, 16 years ago. Like they've made a lot of progress towards opening up a lot of different things that did not exist when we were electing the first time. Like having a abortion on the table as a talking point. I keep bringing that one up because that's kind of how they led their campaign. But
yeah.
and immigration, both of them have always been big talking points, I guess you could say, but not so much as it has been now. The abortion one. That's probably why I'm bringing it up. That one was really pushed hard for this election. And I, of course, naturally it would because the Roe v. Wade,
Right.
So we didn't have that in our previous elections. That wasn't something that was a determinant in here. So there are a lot of things that are different and changed. And we made it through those kind of hardships, I guess you can say, because we were at war. We were dealing with wars as well, multiple
Yes.
of them.
Yes.
And we're online talking still.
You're
So
still
nothing
talking to me.
happened. I mean, things happened, but people are still here, and the United States didn't go up in flames.
Not yet.
Right.
I keep calling it I jokingly say stuff and then I'm like, I can't just blatantly just say this sort of stuff because some people will not understand like my sense of humor. But the last season of America, because that's how people are acting, so that's what I called it. But like honestly, advice wise, I'm gonna ask Marie to share some too. She already has given some, but like you really have to find a way to navigate what, no matter what happens, it's going to be your job to navigate it as best as you can. And then from there, because on top of us navigating life, we're also, I tell people all the time, the stuff that you want to see that's different, have a hand in it. Everybody doesn't necessarily have the time, energy, or whatever to be able to do that. But it all starts with being able to accept some things and figure out how to navigate.
Right.
If that is primarily where your head is at all times, no matter whether the outcome is one you want or one you don't, it's still the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And you use that to ground yourself. And, I hope nobody will be falling apart this evening.
Yeah. That's like my big thing. Like I know there are already people falling apart online. I hope that people that are listening to us don't fall apart. Keep your wits about you. Because like you said, whatever it is, we've been disappointed in elections before. As a matter of fact, there was a lot to be disappointed about in your local elections that people forget and don't pay attention to. You've actually been crying and didn't know. There's a lot of choices out there that weren't so great. And you're still here and you're moving on. And I say that if the end of the world comes, let's wait for it to show up first. Before we start going into a panic. Until then, keep taking care of yourself and taking care of those around you because you're going to have to do that regardless. Whatever happens, you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to keep moving forward. So just try not to be afraid. Things aren't completely over. I know that there was a guy on TikTok who, oh my God, I wanted to slap him through the screen. I respect his humanity, but he deserved a slap.
What did he do? What did he do?
He basically created a game plan in case Trump won that sounds like preparing for a zombie apocalypse. And it had like 200,000 likes on it, as it was basically more Saturn and Pisces indications. So a lot of what he suggested that everyone do in the event that Kamala didn't win was to don't talk, don't speak, don't share anything, hide, make sure you can protect yourself, and isolate like a motherfucker. I mean, that's pretty much the gist of everyone was saying, because he was all like, if someone asks you what your political thing is, say, I don't talk about politics. If somebody says, what's your identity? Say, I don't talk about politics. More Saturn and Pisces. It was basically like you're so scared to go ahead and shut yourself off from everyone because you can't, Saturn and Pisces, trust anyone. You can't move about. You have to be in the shadows. Everyone go into hiding is what that said. And I'm like, okay, it's still Saturn though. So you go ahead and try that. You know, because when Saturn gets into Aries and things are going to, the people aren't going to take action when Saturn gets into Aries, because they are going to self-center and self-isolate and push themselves into hiding. That when Saturn gets into Aries, which is going to indicate a lack of action. And you're going to wonder where that came from, because you're scaring people to death. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Because when Saturn gets into Aries, it indicates that some action is to be played out, but Saturn says nobody's going to do it. So you're not really helping our future here by creating fear. In your own individual way, you're not going to help your future if you isolate. For your own singular way, for your own personal way, you're not going to do much for your mental health if you hide away from the world. There is a lesson to be learned in the disappointments of Pisces. And the disappointments of Pisces is that isolation, is that hiding, and it's fear. There should be learning how to be inspired despite. There should be learning how to be hopeful despite. There should be learning how to self-reflect and open up to yourself despite disappointments. Not hiding, not shying away, not being afraid. Those things you don't, I recommend, I watched 2 movies that gave me nightmares that were...
Oh no!
They gave me nightmares on a psychological level, which is perfect because it's the reason why I watch psychological thrillers. If you don't do that, it was poor writing. But they were very Saturn and Pisces movies. I would say that they had very strong indications. They're both out on Netflix. The first one that I watched was Don't Move, and right after that, I watched Woman of the Hour. And in both of them, because I don't want to give them away, what I would rather people do is go into watching them fully immersing yourself into the movie. So Saturn and Pisces, these movies, which means suspend Saturn reality, to suspend your reality, Saturn and Pisces, right? So you go in there and you fully immerse yourself and don't feel like you're going to be bored with Don't Move. Allow what's happening in that movie to happen, even its slow moments, because they all play a part in hopelessness and fear for that first movie, which is the Saturn and Pisces. Oh, I don't know if I lost you. Oh,
no,
okay.
I'm here.
You said that. Yeah.
I just coughed and I didn't want to do it all in your ear.
No, it's okay. Yeah. So the Saturn and Pisces motion of it with Don't Move has a lot to do with the fear and hopelessness, but there's a sense of overcoming in there of what I'm talking about, what to do with Pisces when it comes to Don't Move. I mean, the Saturn and Pisces in Don't Move. And Woman of the Hour has something. They did something very interesting in here for Woman of the Hour. Like I said, if you immerse yourself and allow yourself to actually be led away by the film, and it has to do with morals. There is a very tricky thing they do in there that makes you lack sympathy for the victim for just a moment and being upset at their choice. but then also having to reflect at how horrific it is to have that thought.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was very surprised as to the emotional roller coaster that Woman of the Hour. Now, Woman of the Hour is actually based on a true story. It was about a serial killer back in the late 70s, during that time that was on a dating game show. So he was actually,
I remember that. Yeah.
yes, who was on the dating game show. And how they wrote and did this movie puts you in situations where you're just going, if the victim just would have done this. And you should not have that feeling, and you can't help it, because I tried my damnness while I was watching it to be like, no, we know who this guy is, him bad, feel sympathy. The writing in there is quite good, and but it's also an attribute to ways that you can deal with Saturn and Pisces. And I'm using movies and TV shows. I've been heavy on anime recently because they do a lot of that in their writing, to play with, psychology and thoughts and feelings and values and things that matter. But I've been looking at them all even more with an astrological mind, because there are lessons in movies, is what Saturn in Pisces says as well.
Yes,
there will
it does.
be a lesson to learn in watching film, but you have to watch it wanting to learn the lesson, wanting to see what the message is. So those two movies that I recommended, though, Woman of the Hour and Don't Move, definitely great for your Saturn and Pisces lessons learning. I'd even like to hear what people come back, if you go and watch it, what you ended up coming with it in those movies, because I don't want to spoil it and I need people to talk to. So go watch it and tell me what you think and what you got out of that, even astrologically.
Yes. I was also going to say, Marie, I had told people on the page about doing the Saturn seminar again. I just was just going to do it. I know we've done it before. We did a refresher. I wanted to know if you could join me to do it. If you can't, it's fine. I was thinking probably mid to end of November. I know it goes direct, November 15th. And we were just talking and teaching people about the cycles with Saturn. And
right.
I keep seeing all these posts, and I like the posts that make Saturn dark, because I have such a deep respect for Saturn. And it's in a way that is hard to explain to someone who does not have the same respect for it. Like, I have my Saturn in a very interesting place. I feel like we are talking about my Saturn and talking about my 12th house Saturn, which is also going through a Saturn opposition. But I'm looking at people not want to have to deal with the harsher parts of life. And I get it. Like, we want to feel good, right? But of course, we wouldn't understand what any of that felt like without the hardships. We couldn't have Jupiter moments without Saturn moments. But it seems like there is this almost like rebellion in thought against the fact that anything should be a certain amount of hard. And the respect for some things actually being difficult to accomplish or hard to do, we're in this, I don't know, online we're in this weird space where I don't know what to attribute it to, other than I know human beings just want to be seen. They want to accomplish things, but people taking shortcuts on things that you can't take shortcuts on, wanting the glory, that sort of thing. Saturn frowns upon that, right?
Right.
You got to do your due diligence. You have to do it with integrity. These are all Saturn keywords. So that's why I wanted to do the Saturn seminar again, and just kind of do it for everybody to be able to come and participate if you would like to, because you did such a great job with perspective and understanding when we did it before. And I think it would behoove people, especially since this is a transit we're dealing with. We just did that again.
Yeah, no, I'm down to do it, because I know that by next year, I believe somewhere around end of May, I believe it is, beginning of June, Saturn is going to very briefly be in Aries. Yeah. And so it would be nice to do a halfway check-in mark before that happens, going into the preparation of Aries when Saturn does finally leave Pisces. But yeah, no, I'd love to go through that again, especially because everyone's going to be there expecting to hear some Saturn, so I can full Capricorn on that shit.
Oh, I love that you
Because we need to talk about some things. You know, we're talking. There's Saturn in Pisces also shows a real lack of reflection, and there's a lot to be desired in the way that people are processing thought. There was a lot to be desired in the way that I was processing my own thoughts, which is why I've been taking a back seat. And you know, I wish that there are a few astrologers out there that I wish would do the same. Yeah. that need to, you know, there's a moment, I don't know if it was you that posted it or someone else, I saw it, where it says that healers, people who heal other people need a retreat so they can heal themselves.
Yeah, I posted that for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And so, you know, the Saturn and Pisces thing, I know that I want to help people. I also have to be the best version of myself to continue to do that. Right. So I was taking this kind of hermit Saturn and Pisces, because I couldn't, you know, God has jokes. I couldn't just progress to Pisces with just the sun being there. He was like, you're going to progress with Saturn. You don't get to just jump in the ocean. You're going to swim in this little pond first. I'm like, all right, thanks. I appreciate that. So this doesn't get to be easy. But yeah, just to even discuss the reflection process, I have a lot to share on what I've learned taking a back seat and observing for once and really rolling through my emotions. My journal is crazy now. It's not even looking at my diary, you know, I used to, it's turned into a lot about me. You know, I can admit that, you know, writing in a journal used to be about everything else that was happening around me and what other people were doing and what I experienced in the face of other people. And lately I've been looking at it and it's really about me. And being disappointed in things with myself, and facing that, and being, you know, facing the fact, like how I said, I can openly admit that, you know, I was afraid to not be accepted by others. It was something that I was dealing with, but never took the time to reflect on, which makes it very easy now to address it. I could say, hey, yeah, I used to, you know, I wanted y'all to love me. And then getting to a point where I'm like, I love me, so I don't care. You can if you want to.
Amen.
And that took a lot of mirror facing and admitting things to myself that I didn't want to admit. You know, going back to like how we were talking about the elections. Oh, something else just got called. Who got called? We got 246. Who the hell got called?
It happened so quickly that, like...
What? Oh, Georgia. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Okay, your state.
Yep, my state. Yeah, I figured they were going to. That's why I'm all like, I don't know what's taking them so long. It's clearly going over there. So we're at 246, and if I do this, okay, so I can do this. This will give an idea of what this looks like. I might be able to share the screen. Let me see.
Okay, let me end my steering now. Hold on. There you go.
All right, let me share. Yes, I understand. I'm sharing my life. Okay. Can we see that?
Hold on. Did you put it up there? Oh, you have to hit show on screen. There it goes.
Oh, okay. All right. So if we were just to look at what is not called but leaning, we can get an idea of what it looks like based off of that thus far. So we know that this has been called, so I can make that, and this has been called. This is leaning here, and here. If it continues to lean this way. Because he has all of these, let's just say, because is it looking like it's going to lean any other way? If I give an idea, if I make this.
It says
blue.
PA is at 88% of reporting. Oh, I'm just looking at, let me look at the other ones. Hold on. You're saying in case that happened?
Yeah, so right now, let's see. Which one? I'm looking at the ones that are very, very close. So Wisconsin is close, so I can flip it and see what it would look like if she won Wisconsin. Michigan doesn't look that close. Pennsylvania is yeah, they're still all close.
Yeah.
Arizona is very close. So if I switch to Arizona, it would look like this. So what other one would she need to get in order to win? If she got Nevada, still not enough.
So it'd have to be PA.
Yeah, she would.
Or
She needs PA. Because if he were to get the ones that are staying red, what would that look like? If I made these red, and what else is leaning red? This is leaning red.
PA is leaning red, and
even if she got PA and he got all the other key states, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, and Wisconsin, it still wouldn't be enough. She would need Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Arizona or Wyoming. Either one of those would get her the win.
Huh. Don't you love technology?
I do. I love that I can do this. I was doing like my own personal projections that every time, because what I'm looking at to see what is leaning was the presidential results that you just had up. Oops. Where is it? Sharing. It was this one. Yes, I understand. Jesus Christ. And then you say I have to
show on stream on the left.
Is it?
It's on the left side.
What the hell? Come on, do it. Where are you? It's not even on here.
Really? Oh no, I hit it for you. Are you trying to do that again?
Yeah, on the left side it doesn't have anything. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
One of those weird little things. So that's what I was looking at. I was looking at these ones which are leaning red, which is why I could change that electoral map to see what would happen if these were definitively red. Minnesota's currently, and they still haven't called Maine. Come on, Maine. These are like all the people. No, I'm just kidding.
There's 8 people there. Oh, that's right. Maine's beautiful, but there's only one area code for the whole state, right? Because it's not that populous. I get it.
Yeah. But... And then New Hampshire, too. Like, come on, call. But look how... good God, Maine. Maine is looking very red.
Yeah, man.
And that was something that I said earlier about even looking at these states, even the ones that are blue. If you look in here, look at that.
Yep.
Illinois went to Kamala, but this is the only area here. And here, these are the only counties that are blue, and these are kind of blue leaning, right?
Yeah, right.
The rest are like definitively.
Wow.
So when I said that the counties were shifting, the counties are shifting red. So they, even in the state, if it's blue, you're going to be surrounded by Republican counties as they've changed their majorities personally, which means your local elections are going to count a lot. You know, this is New Mexico, just to give an idea of how much of the state is truly blue.
Right.
If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Which makes me curious, because they're always blue, but I've never looked at their counties. All right, so that's for California. Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, they're red all in the middle. And I'm going to say, having been a former Californian for most of my life, you know, when I was talking about the people that are ignored, right, in their quest for what they believe in, these areas right here, these are like there's nobody out there. I'm not saying it like that, but you know, no, California has country. They have country areas too. They have farmland areas too. They have mountainous areas too. It's like California would be like the whole side of over here.
Yeah.
Which includes the same thing. Farmland, mountainous, and city. So that's like California. Oregon is surprisingly red for them turning blue, and so is Washington. So this also even lets you know. And you know what's surprising, too, is that I heard people, you know, they wanted to get rid of the Electoral College because they said the popular vote should should be the determinant over who, because that's most of the country speaking for who should be president, right? And I don't think they'd make that argument now.
Oh.
So now, which one do we do? Not the popular vote anymore, or not the electoral? Which one?
Whether this is going the way you want it to or not, and whether that would help or not.
Right. And then I can understand why people get very upset over these votes here.
Oh my God.
I'm playing the election game now. So now I'm not the astrologer. I'm not the human. I'm doing the election game here. But now I can understand why people. Here goes. What is that? Like 2 million, almost 2 million votes that went to who are the other candidates? Me? I think I saw Billy Carson fill out a poll and put his own name. Like, bruh.
Listen, I will tell y'all a secret. It's not a secret since I'm telling everybody anymore. But in 2016, at the time, I was like very staunchly like everything is a joke. I can't I did not want to be involved. Right?
Did you vote for yourself?
No.
Oh, damn.
I voted for your girl there in the middle only because
Jill Stein.
My boyfriend's mom literally drove me to the polls. And you know how everybody was wearing the Hillary I'm with her stuff? She's like, I'm going to take you to be with her. So I went inside of that booth and I was like, I don't want to be here. I said I didn't want any parts of this. I'm gonna just live with what it is. And I know so many people think that's terrible. Oh my God, your ancestors died for the right to vote. The right. Yeah. I did not want no parts. Okay.
Right.
I voted for Jill Stein. I did that back in 2016. So because of that, I felt in my heart what you just said. Y'all just messed up. Okay, just took 1 million votes away for. I get it.
Yeah, but you know what? I find, like I said, I don't have an emotional attachment to this, so I find it hilarious. So like when I saw like other candidates, I'm all like, look at all those presidents that we don't know about, and we could have voted for. The right to vote. Go ahead, vote how you want to, because even at the end of the day, this doesn't matter. Not saying like, okay, for the people who say elections don't matter, you're right, it doesn't matter. For the people who say that it does matter, you're like, yeah, it matters, and at the same time, you're still gonna live your life. So at the end of it, no matter what happens, we're still gonna live our lives. That's how I look at it. We're still gonna move on and live our life. And my whole thing is that if somebody comes across something and it's against them where they are, and my attitude isn't to say, see, that's why you should have, and it was all your fault. You're like, brother, we have record voting right now going on. I think they said that this is historical record breaking voting. Like,
wow, oh my goodness.
Yeah, we already see that just from what they have here. What is that? 126 million people voting. It's still not everybody, because there's like 300 million people here. But as far as the voters, that's a huge turnout. So everybody who was supposed to play their part played it. Even our Jill Steins, Robert Kennedy, which is crazy. He's not even running anymore. And Chase Oliver, even though people voted for them, they played their part. Because whatever this was meant for this to happen, So
and I'm with it too. I like talking about it this way rather than, giving myself cortisol stress.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, like I can't imagine being how I used to be politically in this climate, like before depolarization. So.
Yeah, and if I had any advice, if I wanted to say, like, if I ever were a political commentator, which, oh my God, I hope never to be. I don't think I could deal. It's just, maybe one day. Who knows? I don't know where my path will take me. But I would say that from what I've learned from the Harris-Walz campaign, it was such a almost identical campaign running as Hillary Clinton. And that didn't bode well for her. And they kind of ended up doing the same thing. They spoke mainly to their base. And they spoke, what was it that I was going to say that they did? Oh, and they constantly spoke about their opponents.
Yeah.
So a considerable amount of their campaign, I learned more about my opponents than I did about their campaign, and they kind of just spoke to the very people who were going to vote for them anyway
Yeah.
without addressing the other issues. And I believe that's where, because the way that, I mean, it's still, they still haven't called it, so I can't say. She could maybe she ends up winning and what she did was the right thing to do.
Right.
But if I were to say she didn't, what would be the reason why? Then it would be because she spoke purely to her base without addressing how other people felt, and spoke about her opponent. And that's what I could say that I learned from there. If she doesn't, if she does, then she obviously moved people, that her talking points were actually the moving needle for most Americans. And in that regard, I need to do even more reflecting as to why. I need to spend some time thinking as to, okay, maybe there's a different type of shift that that those main points that she was discussing are the things that are needed. Because one of the things that I would say that even policy wise was an issue was not dealing with people who were already living life. And I wanted to see that from everyone. I wanted to see them going, hey, the majority base of your people in America are adults with families, or adults trying to have families, or adults trying to now want to get into the idea of purchasing homes and building, or have already started doing that, already have businesses, already have things established. So there was a lot of speaking for beginners, and I don't think there was speaking points for the intermediate people. Like the people that are, like, if we were to talk about what scale of adulthood are you on? Are you a beginner adult, an intermediate adult, or an advanced adult? And I think there was a lot of talk for a lot of beginner adults and not enough for the intermediate ones.
Gotcha. I understand what you
Yeah.
mean. Holy hell, Lord.
Oh, okay. So, Alaska's already coming in? Oh, yeah, we're expecting Hawaii already called it. Of course, naturally.
Yeah.
And Alaska, yeah, they're about 1, 2 a.m. Good God Almighty, come on, Pennsylvania. I'm mad at your state now. No.
You should be. We East Coast like at least we're up and reporting. It was 88% reporting when we last looked. It's 90 now. So
9. Okay.
yeah. We're slowly but surely getting there. Hold on, can you like go in on them? Like I want to see what counties are still out. Everybody. My
Yeah.
county looks like it's supposed to. So I told you, as I said before, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and then the rest of the state. That's what I'm used to. So it's no
Right.
surprise. If I went by what I saw around me, like I wouldn't think that the state would flip blue. I don't know. I would think
Right,
it,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, because clearly here you have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 counties that are
Mhm.
blue.
Yep.
Okay.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah,
I
I
told you it
know.
was gonna be red. That's the county I'm in. Oh my goodness. Well, how long do you think my state gonna make people wait? Because I'm sorry.
Forever.
Oh my God. Am I gonna fall asleep, Pennsylvania? Come on.
Right, because they're still reporting at 90 and they didn't call it. Georgia called it at 94.
Huh.
Um,
Okay.
so maybe we're closer to them. They're at 62. They haven't. So I think some of them called them really early though. They called it at. I think there's another site that I have on here that shows when they called things. But yeah, I don't know if you want to keep going or if you want to, leave everybody to their not fears, because you're not going to be scared waking up, finding out
Yeah,
whatever the results are.
I don't want y'all to be scared about anything. I know that's not to say there aren't challenges, but life speaks in valleys here. And it may sound cliche that I'm saying this, but the value really is in the small things like this that you hold close to you and keep in mind so that each day you can move forward a step and not get
Mm-hmm.
bogged down and stuff. Like we're going to be impacted by God only knows what. I guess I'm finally embracing my North Node, Marie.
Oh
Every time
yes.
every time I would look at what is that book that I like, Astrology for the Soul, Jan Spiller, she would always say, North Node and Leo people, look at your life as a game. And my Earth dominance was like, what? No. Why would I ever do that? Why would I look at life as a game? This is serious. Ain't shit funny. But the more I've embraced it over the past couple of years, it really is true. But you've got to kind of you've got to have faith in yourself. You were all right
Yeah.
when you went through this 4 years ago. Hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
you survived. You're still here. We're still going. We still have opportunities tomorrow and the day after and the day after to make the world a better place by being our fabulous selves. So I don't know. I don't allow this stuff to like kill me.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah. No, you make a the whole point with what we're dealing with elections that are doing this is don't you're still going to keep going.
yeah.
You kept going the whole time. Oh, we got another call. Who was that?
Oh, something jumped.
Yeah, something drunk. We got 214 to 247. So did she get Minnesota? Is that what that is? Let me refresh it. Who we got? Oh, New
Um,
Hampshire.
okay.
Yeah, they called it. You little state. No, I love you. I love New Hampshire and New Hampshireans. What do you call them?
New Hampshireans?
New
Is that how you?
Hampshireans.
I don't
Ah!
know. I might be wrong.
Imagine if we start getting attacked for our viewpoints and that's the one that did it.
New Hampshireans came for your neck.
That's not who we are.
Exactly.
We are New Hampshireans. Dare you? Please. But yeah,
Please.
if you want to go ahead and end it for the, I don't know if you want to end it
Yes.
for the evening.
Yes, I am sleepy, and I just really I don't know. I think we said everything that could be said.
Yeah.
I don't know how long I thought this was going to take for stuff to come in, but we'll catch y'all later.
Yeah. Peace.
Peace.